So, Britain, huh? The world's punching bag. Now, despite all the overdone jokes and memes made about the country on the daily, there's a lot to appreciate about the UK. Cement, for instance. That's important. How about the internet? Or toothbrushes? Okay, well, that's ironic. That'd be a shock to some of you considering my perfect American accent, but I actually grew up in the UK. Northern Ireland, it's a technicality, I'm aware, but hey, I wouldn't often want to associate with England now, so enjoy this rare occurrence. If there's one thing the country's certainly not well known for, it's movies. That's not to say there are none, of course, but I think when folks think of the film industry, they're more likely to think of Hollywood, and not Hollywood of Worcestershire. Growing up around here, I was given the treat of being able to see a lot of British-made films in theaters, movies that otherwise would have just been dumped onto streaming or DVDs elsewhere. There's a sense of patriotism when it comes to a piece of media from the country hitting something as major as the big screen. That's for real art like Paws of Fury. Unfortunately for me, however, any of these films actually being good was a rare occurrence. More often than not, I would be going with my family to check out whatever strange adaptation they were making of a British show or book. And so today I figured I'd give you Yanks a look at some of the movies we have to offer over here. A couple from my childhood and some just random ones that I picked either due to having an actor I knew of or just having such a strange, bizarre title that I couldn't help but want to use this opportunity to check it out. And spoiler alert, but some of these are genuinely terrible. One at the very least I can safely say is the worst movie I have ever seen in my lifetime. And it ain't Horrid Henry, surprisingly. But we'll save that for the end. See, that's to entice you to stick around. Sit down, grab a drink, subscribe even. Happy New Year. Are you excited for 2024? I am, because it marks the 10th anniversary of the film based on one of the most popular series in all of the UK and Ireland. And after saying what I'm about to say, I don't think I'll ever be able to show my face in public again out of fear of getting my face kicked in at every corner. Mrs. Brown's Boys is shit, and I hate that it is arguably the most popular TV show that takes place in Ireland. And already I know what you're thinking. I thought you said this was about England. Why are you talking about an Irish film? You're not some kind of traitor, are you? So look, it was produced by the BBC, okay? And what I can only assume was all part of their maniacal plot to make every Irish citizen look like brain-dead simpletons who giggle and clap their feet at the mere utterance of the word feck. Mrs. Brown's Boys was a sitcom taking place in Dublin that saw the titular Agnes Brown as she acts as the central hub for her 6 kids, getting into silly hijinks that often involve just kind of sitting around making sex jokes.
So tell me, have you got a pussy?
I fucking despised the show when I was a kid, simply because you could not avoid it. If you did not watch, or heaven forbid, like this series, you are seen as some kind of prudish freak. And so being the contrarian that I am, even as a 9-year-old, I hated it. It's just so lame to me. So easy, half the jokes are just swearing. I mean, what is this? Popular internet show? This series treats its audience like a group of idiots, and honestly I can see why. Because they got a fucking movie out of it. Also, if you haven't picked up on it yet because of the spectacular costume design, Mrs. Brown isn't actually a woman, instead being played by a man called Brandon O'Connell. A lot of the comedy in the show deriving from a live studio, presumably all 2 to 3 beers in, laughing at the concept of a man, dressed as a lady, saying the swear words. And if you're thinking that sounds a whole lot like an Irish version of Medea, then boy do I have the movie for you.
Wakanda forever.
Anyways, like I was saying, the series was so big in the UK that they made and released a movie based on it. Mrs. Brown's Boys, the movie. Because they're Irish. I remember the theater being packed for this, but surprisingly, I don't recall a single laugh. It's like everyone just kind of sat there going, well, this is exactly what I see on TV. It looks a lot nicer.
Wait a minute. This shouldn't be here. This is the movie.
Mrs. Brown's Boys, the movie, sees our heroine being at risk of having her little market stall in Dublin be shut down by a big evil businessman who wants to tear it down, otherwise known as the most generic and basic plot you could pick for your film. At the same time, she gets hit with her great-grandmother's unpaid tax bill for the stall, with interest and inflation putting the price at about £4 million. And so now it's up to Mrs. Brown and her aforementioned boys to prove that she actually did pay the bill, or else the whole thing will be bought out and tore down. My biggest issue while watching the Mrs. Brown's Boys movie is that it's just so fucking boring. It's just them bumming around Dublin for an hour and a half doing what's essentially shitty stand-up, going to different sets and seeing what new character they can bring in with their own quirky traits.
You're very welcome to Mr. Lang. #1 ninja score for the bride.
If you guys want an idea of Brendan's creativity, he seriously planned on making a spin-off film where this guy was the star. This was 2014. It's all just so lazy. The jokes are either the most simple shit ever.
Wish me luck. Hello?
Get it? She picked up the phone, but actually it was the phone, it was a TV remote. Or it's just looking at the camera and going, "You are watching a movie, Mrs. Brinesboy's damn movie. I'm a man playing a woman. I am rude and swear and talk about Fanny."
You could disguise yourself as a man.
No, Winnie, I'd never get away with it.
A staple of the show's comedy that many folks adore is that, you know, usually when an actor messes up their performance, they stop everything and reset. Get everyone back in place and try to do another take where they don't fuck up. Not in Mrs. Brinesboy's, though. Instead, they will sit and linger in the line flubbing, and just giggle for a second to each other before just continuing. I get it's fun for the audience and makes them feel like they're part of the show, but I'm a petty prick, so I don't like seeing them have fun, okay? Say your damn lines, Brendan. Messing up the words ain't that funny. And like, you know, of course that wouldn't work for a movie. You know, you gotta worry about stakes and emotional beats and pacing. That would just completely take you out of a movie in a way that you can at least get away with for a live show. You get where this is going.
Fuck. 2 chips, 1 smoked cod.
They even do this with the villains. Doesn't that remove any and all tension that you're at least trying to have? I can't even be mad, like, am I surprised? If you like it, that's fine, and all in all, I do seriously get why people like the show. I also think Irish people like being represented in general. There were so many newspaper articles hyping up the Simpsons episode where they go there. But it is just the most perfect encapsulation of every single thing I hate in a show or movie. Zero plot with no interesting characters, no earnestness, constant fourth wall breaks for the sake of fourth wall breaks, and on top of it all, it's just fucking boring. Nothing is going on here, and so when the jokes are shit, you're just left sitting there like, why is this a movie? Well, I'm glad to hear that the upcoming sequel for the film has been in production hell for almost a decade, and if there's a god in this world, it'll never come out. Okay, this is the complete opposite side of the spectrum. Horrid Henry the movie is basically British Diary of a Wimpy Kid, being a 2011 film based off a popular book series that was eventually turned into a relatively successful TV show. Interestingly enough, Horrid Henry has just become Twitter's current obsession. You know, when they suddenly act like they give a shit about something for a month and then just forget about it and move on to the next thing. I have seen more Horrid Henry in the past week than I have since, well, this movie came out. I used to read these books a lot and watch the TV show quite a bit, especially when at friends' houses who didn't have cable. I recall liking them, but not loving them, if that makes any sense. I was really confused that the books were in black and white. I literally thought that I had a defective copy, and so would just start coloring them in myself. And the cartoon was just kinda lame, I don't know. I guess it's because it's always a pet peeve of mine when you have this dorky little dumbass but try to portray them as super cool and crude. Everyone always calls Henry horrid because of his actions, but to me that was always such a TM word. Even as a 9-year-old, call him, honky-ass Henry. That is terrible. Like last time, it was adapted into a feature film. One that I also saw in theaters at the time. And I think I even rented it out a couple times afterwards too, so clearly I liked it enough. And while there are certain parts that are, for lack of a better term, cringe, overall it is by far the best movie I watched for this video. And even if I'm way out of its primary demographic, I really appreciate how much care went into it, especially the set design. It reminds me a lot of the live-action Fairly OddParents movie, just with less Drake Bell. Everything is on point to the show, the costumes, the locations. I love that Henry's pajamas also has a big fucking yellow stripe on it. They really wanted to evoke the feeling of the show, which is probably also why they bumped up the saturation 1000%. Henry looks like he's wearing fucking lipstick in half these shots. Appearance-wise, it's really just held back by the terrible CGI effects. Excusable in some cases, but in others... Honestly though, I am down for how cartoony it gets. There are no rules for how this world works. They can just defy the laws of physics and nobody ever calls attention to it. It's not lazy like Mrs. Brinesboy's because it's committed to the world looking like this. It's not a case of them doing this silly thing and then going, haha, wow, wasn't that a bit strange? It's so committed to being a cartoon with such a breakneck pace that you can't help but just be along for the ride and enjoy what it is. An admittedly low budget, kinda below average kids movie. Horrid Henry the movie sees Henry be so horrid, so despicable, that he gets his teacher fired and eventually causes the school to be at threat of closing down, with the owner of the local private school trying to find a way to do so, as it means everyone would need to pay for their kids to go to him instead. It's basically the plot of Daddy Daycare, which I find amusing considering Angelica Houston is a big part of both of these. If there were one big complaint I have with this movie, it's the way they write Henry himself. Again, I never really liked him to begin with. As a young lad, it always came off to me like he was a mean little boy, as written by an adult woman. Which is exactly what he is. It was just so surface-level rude that made him not relatable in the slightest compared to a kid like Greg Heffley, the crowning jewel of asshole boy characters. Henry's the kind of kid that would wear one of those shirts that are like, "Keep calm and kill zombies," or have a sign outside his bedroom that reads, "Keep out, I'm gaming." He likes video games and rock and roll and snot and farting, and it's why I always thought he was a massive loser. Still though, I knew what I was in for with this one, and I came out of it liking it a lot more than I thought I would. It tries to give him this arc of learning not to be such an asshole to the folks around him, growing to respect his teacher and teaming up with his biggest rival, Moody Margaret. Oh yeah, that's the gimmick of the series, everyone's name has alliteration, I like it a lot. We have Rude Ralph, Perfect Peter, Stupid Bitch Sandra, she's real, look it up. In the movie though, they really turned down his horridness for the sake of his character arc. We barely even see him do anything that bad or unprovoked. The terrible act he commits that gets his teacher fired isn't even something he did. He just gets blamed for it. Moody Margaret doesn't even feel guilty about this. The prick. I guess it's just missing the moment at the start where Henry really fucks up and does some truly heinous shit like, I don't know, murder his teacher's husband and leave his severed head sticking out the flagpole. I think that would have made the movie better. Either way, Henry goes in a game show and wins the prize money to keep the school open, even though they were closing for discipline issues, not money. Not that it even matters during all this, the principal just so happens to overhear the big bad villain explain his plan over the phone, so she calls the police. Nice work, Henry, glad to know you could have done nothing and everything would have played out to see him, well done. Still though, like I said, Horrid Henry the movie was way better than it had any right being. Would I recommend you go out of your way to watch it yourself? If you're under the age of 12, sure, go for it. But if you're looking for something a little more adult, then have I got the film for you. Who the fuck makes a movie and calls it Fat Slags? A genius, that's who. I picked this based on the title alone. I was scrolling through Google for British films, and for some reason this was near the top of the results. And honestly, I am so thankful for that. I went on a massive deep dive into what the hell this was, and would you be shocked to find out that I actually came out of it really appreciating this franchise more than anything? That's right, I said franchise. Fat Slags is an adaptation of a comic strip in the UK that started all the way back in 1989, being nothing more than these massive, disgustingly grotesque Englishwomen who have three things on the mind 24/7. Food, alcohol, and sex. I mean, are you surprised to hear that the title is basically just the Fat Slug? These characters were apparently successful enough to start popping up in other media, such as having their own hit single. They appeared in a Lucozade advert that is animated way too well.
Actually, darling, it's mine.
When we want you to move your stuff in, we'll tell you.
And most notably, a stop-motion series that contained 4 segments. If you don't live in the UK, I would not recommend checking them out, as it is unlikely for you to understand a single thing being said in them. It's just so shit, so shameless, that it turns around on itself and becomes funny to me. There's something about having this stop-motion series that looks unironically great being used on this that I can't help but laugh. Anyway, so they made their movie, which is widely considered to be one of the worst British movies of all time. The creator of the comic strip apparently hated it, finding it to be a disservice to his creation, and YouTubers across the globe touted it as being horrible, truly awful. And because of that, I find it kind of hilarious. It's bizarre, there is such a fine line for me when it comes to a tolerance for bad media. Something like Mrs. Brown's Boys is terrible to me, but a contributing factor for that is undoubtedly how beloved it is. That something so bad could be popular enough to get a movie that makes $30 million at the box office, and has become as much of a face for Irish media as a genuinely great series like Father Tad. Whereas with Fat Slags, I don't know, you were expecting it to be good? And like, I'll be real for a second, it's not a good movie. I'm not that deluded. But I think it is just so past my time. I have such little connection to this that I can't help but think about all the people who paid money to see this in theaters and absolutely hating it, and laugh. It's like one big fuck you to the audience, and the fact that it also made YouTuber reviewers really mad is even funnier to me. Like, do we really need someone to sit down and make a 30-minute video explaining how Fat Slags is a bad movie? It's great. It's only January 2nd, but I'm calling it now. My favorite movie this year, Fat Slags Sweep. I want to end this with a complete tonal shift to what I seriously think may be the worst movie I have ever seen. And I know I'm not alone on that. I mean, you know you messed up when your movie makes $95 fucking at the box office. This is The Comedian's Guide to Survival, a film that I only checked out due to it starring James Buckley, one of the Formian boys in The Inbetweeners, the quintessential British comedy. James played Jay, who is by far the most beloved character, known mainly for his raunchy jokes and basically just being that one friend who acts like the hardest guy on planet Earth.
What about opening up and trusting?
Oh, fuck off, you fat wanker.
James has since stepped away from acting for the most part to pursue a career in being an influencer, and it was among his immense success in streaming that I think he had to face the harsh truth. People only really like him for The Inbetweeners. I do seriously feel bad for him. From what I've seen online, the guy just seems like the most normal dude out there. Not anything like his character on the show, and I think that may have built up a small resentment towards the role. Due to, I'm sure, countless people joining his chat or coming up to him on the street to ask him about The Inbetweeners, acting like he is still that character. And so I understand completely why he chose to say out of future get-togethers, as rare as they are. So I was interested to see him in a starring role in the movie, his very own time to shine and a chance to step away from the character he's seldom known for. It is no exaggeration the worst thing I have ever seen in my life. Comedian's Guide to Survival feels at everything. It features some of the worst writing, the worst editing, the worst performances, the worst set design, and most importantly, it's just not funny.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Except for that. Based off the life of actual comedian James Mullinger, the film sees him at the beginning of his career, doing shitty gigs for a dying crowd, and facing increasing feelings of insecurity as everyone around him tells him to quit. Including his wife, who is played by his actual wife. The biggest issue I have with The Comedian's Guide to Survival is that I can't tell when I'm supposed to find a joke funny, which isn't a good sign in a movie where your star is purposely meant to be bad at comedy at the start but slowly gets better at it over time. I don't know when the good jokes start and end. And I usually wouldn't care about the lack of plot in a dumb comedy, but in a solo character-driven narrative where I'm meant to sympathize for this guy and care about him achieving his goal, have something going on. I cannot stress to you how excruciatingly long this movie feels, despite only being an hour and a half. By the time I assumed they were starting to wrap up, I hit my remote by mistake and saw that I wasn't even a third of the way through. No scene has any sense of a start or end. Things just are here. They evidently could not afford many sets, so they just cut between the same 3 locations over and over again. Him at home, him at a gig, him at work, just constantly flipping through that over and over. I cannot get any sense of time in this movie because there's constant narration and flashbacks to previous scenes. You could tell that James Mullinger had a bunch of comedian friends he convinced to shoot for an hour, but you could not convince me they were given a script at all. I think they literally just sat them next to James Buckley and was like, well, you know, a comedian, he's a comedian, be funny. But James Buckley is the most timid guy on planet fucking Earth. So what we get is nothing but the comedian finding different ways to insult the guy as he goes, oh, yeah. They really wanted to stretch their time with this footage, so every now and then we just cut back to it for no reason. The pacing is horrendous until he eventually gets a promotion where we see he's sent to LA to try and interview a super popular comedian. And if you're wondering if they couldn't even afford a house set, then how the fuck could they afford to send their crew over to LA? Well, they didn't. Are you sure that's LAX and not a random British shopping center you fucking stuck airport signs around? They couldn't even get any actual American actors. It's all just James talking to a British guy doing the worst American accent you have ever heard, over top a green screen with vaguely American landscapes.
Hey, Jimmy! You made it! It's great to see you, man! Come on in!
There's no journey. This film is called The Comedian's Guide to Survival, something he continuously references throughout the movie, but it doesn't mean anything. Like, in context to the universe, what is this, a book? Advice he was given? A motto? He's just saying shit to the camera, hoping it can build up to this moment at the end where he's like, yeah, turns out The Comedian's Guide to Survival doesn't exist. No shit! If you want to watch an hour and a half of half-baked anecdotes of different experiences in being a comedian, followed up with an extra hour of a film crew desperately trying to fill in time with no plot, or characters, or money, then shall I say, I think this is the movie for you. Honestly, if you want a piece of homework from this video, I genuinely implore you to seek out and watch this shit. It is near impossible for me to get across how bad it is in a way that isn't just having you sit down and watching it for yourself. If you do, leave a comment on your thoughts below. I'm interested to see if anyone has any other perspective on this. But at the same time, if you don't want to do that, I don't blame you. I regret doing it. I'm stunned I bothered giving it my full attention. Come on, England. No wonder we're trying to leave. At least I can hold out hope for you, upcoming Wallace and Gromit movie. You have my faith in the entire British Empire resting on your shoulders. Please be good.